This channel is designed for adults viewing only, and certain videos will contain rated M for mature video games, featuring realistic violence, gore and suggestive themes. If you are not an adult, do not view the content on this channel.
Don't go anywhere, stay tuned. Get ready to take a trip down memory lane. This computer can only mean one thing. We're going to be doing a little upgrading here at Gaming Plus Empire. Alright, let's introduce you guys to the new PC case that we will be using here at Gaming Plus Empire for video editing. And check this out. It's a pretty nice old school horizontal desktop case right there. And as you can see right there, we have 4 removable 2.5 inch slots right there for solid state drives, and we have the DVD drive, or actually it's a Blu-ray drive on top, and we have the SD card readers right there. And this little sticker right here was added after the fact. So as you can see here, it has an IBM sticker on it, and that was something I added personally to the case. This was originally an empty slot, 1 inch by 1 inch for a sticker of your choosing, and I chose IBM. This is for a little dedication to the original IBM PC, which happened to be the first horizontal cased PC. And we will be installing a Ryzen 3950X into this magnificent beast. You can see it does have a little bit of lint and dust on it, so I bought this case like months ago, and I've been waiting to build this thing. So let's take a look at the computer parts that we have. Let's take a look at the parts in one moment, and we'll discuss exactly what we're going to be doing. Alright, so the motherboard that we have decided to settle with is a workstation motherboard, an Asus ProWS X570 Ace AM4 motherboard. Now that's basically a little picture of what it looks like, and eventually we will get that inside the case and demonstrate how it looks. Alright, the CPU that we have chosen is a Ryzen. Once again, the second Ryzen video editing machine that we have. This one happens to be the Ryzen 3950X. Cannot go wrong with that. That is the best of the best right there. Alright, now it's time to show off the video card here. We have an MSI Radeon 5700. We definitely went with this video card right here. We didn't get the Super Duper XT or whichever one that is. There's one that's a little bit above this, but we chose this one specifically for better temperatures. You won't see a huge difference for video editing, so this will be perfectly suitable for what we're using it for. We got some Vengeance, Corsair Vengeance, that is. It's 128 gigs of RAM right there, sitting in those 2 little boxes right there. That is unbelievable. So we're going to be inserting that into the motherboard, getting everything back up and running, and you guys will be seeing an amazing build pretty soon. Alright, so the first thing we need to do is get our little shield put into that slot right there, and get our motherboard into place. So let's get that done. Stay tuned. In a few seconds you'll see it all inside the case. Alright, so I popped the shield in right there, and what's nice about the shield, it has a nice cushioning on it, which is unusual. You usually don't see those on shields. It's pretty high end. It's not bad at all. Alright, so we have the motherboard, as you can see here, lined up. So stay tuned. I'll get this all screwed into place, and we'll see you for the next step after that. Alright, so we got all the screws in the board, installed the RAM. So we're going to order a air cooler. It's a low profile but still 120mm fan, and we're going to put it right there as a Noctua air cooler, so it's pretty good. And that should get the job done, and we'll just keep it at that for now. And we will continue recording once everything arrives. Alright, so while we wait for the parts to arrive, let's take a look at something really interesting. Now these are 5 computers that I previously used for doing video editing throughout the time that Gaming Plus Empire has existed. Let's take a look at the first one here.
we had an AMD Sempron 3100 Plus. It's only 1.8 gigahertz, one core, 62 watts, and we only had 2 gigs of RAM in that computer. The new computer that we're building, the Ryzen 3950X, is 520% faster than the Sempron 3100 Plus. Alright, so around 2007, I actually bought a Athlon 3400 Plus, thinking that it was a bit of an upgrade. The clock speed was faster, it's 2.4 gigahertz, still only one core. Now it's a 62 watt processor. Now it's basically close to the same as the Sempron, and somehow the Ryzen is 656% faster according to benchmarks, which I don't quite understand that, because apparently that means that the Sempron is faster. By 2011, we got ourselves an Athlon 2 X4 640. It's a 3 gigahertz processor, 4 cores, 95 watts. The previous build had 4 gigs of RAM. This one had 8 gigs. It was definitely a pretty decent processor. Did some really good video editing. The Ryzen 3950X is still 165% faster than the Athlon 2 X4 640. And then the next build that we have for video editing kind of cheated on AMD a little bit right here. Feel a little dirty. Had the Intel i5 3450, 3.1 gigahertz clock speed, 4 cores, 77 watts, and we had a whopping 32 gigs of RAM inside this magnificent build. But still, the Ryzen 3950X is 61% faster than this previous build, and I used that i5 from 2013 to 2018, and in 2018 we got ourselves a Ryzen 1700, an 8-core processor running at a nice cool 65 watts, 3 gigahertz per core, and this is a outstanding processor right here. The build is still 32 gigs of RAM, and the Ryzen 3950X is still 39% faster than the 1700, which happens to be the current computer that I'm doing video editing on right now. Great CPU, great computer.
Alright, looks like we have the heatsink. It has arrived in the mail. So we can finally get that put on the board, as well as the other fans that we have for this case as well. So let's stand by, and we will get this heatsink put on, and get the paste put on, and we have everything taken care of. Alright, so you can see right here, we have the Ryzen 3950X, so we have the 2 default little brackets on the side right here. We do have to remove these and unscrew these in order to get this heatsink put on to this processor. And the first thing we're going to be doing is removing these 2 pieces here and attaching the proper pieces right here, and then we're going to put some thermal paste on, which we'll show you guys that in a moment. Alright, so before we put the brackets on, the first thing you want to do is check out this heatsink right here. This is what we're going to be using, this low profile. Just so you guys know, with fans, any type of fan for the PC, if you see these plastic pieces right here that shield the fan, the air blows through here and out this way. So air goes in this way and out this way. So this side right here, the air is blowing out. Right here, the air is going in. So the way we have to set this up is to have the air blowing up, not out of this heatsink right here, to keep it cool. And what we need to do is position this exactly where we want it. So that's probably where I want it. So you want to make sure that the cord for the fan is in the proper position, which will be around this area right here. So we have to put this fan on right here and make sure that the cord is not tugging too much, because you can see right there, this could easily cause some damage if you have the fan like wrapped all the way around this side. So you want to make sure that you're in a good spot right there. So let's get this attached, and we'll be back in about a couple seconds here. Alright, so it looks like we got the arms put on for the Noctua beer cooler. That's basically what it looks like right there, and these are the old arms right here, as you can see. It's a huge size difference. These used to be over here. So now the only thing that's left to do right here would be to put the paste on. So stand by and we'll go over the options for thermal paste. Alright, so for thermal paste, what I prefer to use, let's see if we can get this camera to focus right here, is this is Thermal Grizzly Cryo Knot. As you can see here, let me see if I can get a better little camera shot of this. This is a very small little tube right here. There it is, little teeny cryo knot tube. And this is brand new. This has never been opened. I actually have a brand new case of this stuff right here. So there's a couple ways that you can either put this on. You can either try to cover a little bit of a dot on each four corners towards the center. You can put a dot in the center if you wish. I found out that by experimenting with my 1700 that if I put a little dot and spread a very thin layer over the whole processor, that it actually cools the processor a little bit better, so I'm going to be doing that instead. And for spreading the actual thermal paste, I had a spare i7 sticker laying around, so I figured that would be great for spreading thermal paste on my Ryzen 3950X. I've repasted my 1700 a couple of times, and based on what I noticed is that when you spread it out evenly in a very thin layer, it actually has better results. Alright, so we did get the thermal paste on there. This room is a little dry, so try to get a little bit off the edges here. We spread it evenly, very, very thin layer across the whole processor. It should be fine. Once we get it on there, it will compress itself. So everything is good with that. So we'll get the heatsink on there and we'll see what happens from there. Alright, so we got the heatsink on there. And everything looks good at this point, so the one thing we have to do is wire the fan to the board and wait for some more ports to show up, and then from there we don't have the power supply yet. As you can see right there, we do have the GPU installed. Now there's going to be a few other things that we have to do to this before this thing is complete, such as buying like storage, a few other things to make this thing up and running. So stay tuned and we'll get this thing back up and running. Actually, we never had this thing. Stay tuned and we'll get this thing up and running eventually once we get all the parts. Alright, just want to give you guys a few ideas of what we've done so far off camera. We have installed a few Noctua fans to expel all the hot air out on this side. And so far, this is what we have. We have no GOTS over on that side. This is what we have, and we will try to figure out how to wire manage this. And again, this can be a little tricky, but we're definitely going to hide some cabling up here. And you know, this is one of those cases where there's nothing underneath here, so you can't hide anything behind the motherboard. So it's not easy to hide stuff inside this case, but we will definitely do what we can. And stay tuned for the next portion of this video. We do have to receive a few more parts. Alright, so it looks like the power supply has finally arrived. It took quite a long time. That is the model right there. It's a 750 watt. Seasonic is notorious for being probably the best power supply manufacturer with a 10-year warranty. So let's get this in there and let's try it out. Let's see exactly if we get some power and what happens. So let's get the ball rolling. So before we open up the case, you can see right here we ordered some custom external screws for the case that match the Ryzen color scheme set, red and black. So get the red screws with the black case, as you can see here. And everything looks good so far. We got a couple of fans installed also right there, the Noctua fans. So we'll open the case up and we'll give you guys a little quick look at what we did off camera, and we'll show you exactly what we're going to be doing next. As you can see right here, we invested into some old school wire management right there. And those little ties right there are usually what you would find inside of an older case, and the wire management looks not bad. You can see it looks nice and neat, it's all tied together, everything looks pretty good. There is one right here that I will probably glue down, as it does pop up a little bit. I will take care of that one. Other than that, everything else looks pretty good. The jumpers are set properly. Everything looks nice and clean. And we got the Elgato and the video card installed right there, and you guys can see behind here, that right there is a Noctua cooler. And we also have some of those wire management clips right here above the fans, hiding the actual fan power cables, which is pretty interesting right there. Look at that. So everything is looking good. So let's get the power supply in there and let's see exactly what we can possibly do with this thing and make sure it powers on. Let's test it out. So one little custom piece that we're adding to this build, a nice little modification. This basically converts 80mm to 120mm, and it's going to sit right here. And we're going to be able to add a 120mm fan right over here. We just have to get these cables tucked in just a little bit, and that should work out. And it's a nice tight squeeze, but we should be able to get the yeah, we should be able to put a fan in there with no issue. The fan's going to be really close to where the cables are, so we should be able to figure that out and see if we can get that taken care of. Okay, so upon opening the power supply, you can see that the power supply comes in like a carrying bag. This is as premium as you're going to get. Teutonic definitely makes sure that you know that you're buying a power supply from them. They have a nice fancy bag for their power supply. I've seen things like this on premium audio equipment, and I've never seen anything like that on a power supply before. And even all the modulated attachments come inside of a bag. Check this out. That is pretty cool. Alright, so I'm going to get a little up close and personal here. We have the fan converter. We did install that, and we have just enough room right there that the cables are not touching it. We have all these little wire management devices right here. And these are pretty old school, so for all of you that are used to like old school PCs, you're probably very familiar with those. We have our Radeon 5700, and I did not get the XT model only because for video editing it's not going to make a huge difference, and this will probably run at a cooler temperature anyways, which is fine. We got two Noctua fans right here, and I ordered a few other modifications that we can try out at a later time. Now over here I have 4 SATA cables connected to these boxes right here. Now we have a Noctua low profile cooler right here, blowing air upwards, and these will blow air out. And this fan belongs to the power supply. This power supply is a very, very tight fit. You see right there, it barely fit. And the cable management over in this area is still a work in progress, because there's still a few more things I have to add on to the case, but we have enough in here now that we can try to figure out if it turns on. So it's going to be the main thing right now. We're going to test it out and see if this thing powers on. So let's test this out. Alright, so we got the power supply plugged in, video card plugged in, and this is the first time turning this thing on. I don't know exactly if this thing's going to work or not. I built plenty of PCs, so I'm pretty confident that's going to work. You see the light on the board's on. That's a good sign. And it looks like we got power. Got fans working, the fans are working, and the video card just kicked in. Alright, looks like something's going on. And as mentioned, that power supply over there will not, the fan won't kick in until it's nice and warm. And over here, this is the monitor that we're using. This is actually a TV. And let's check what we got here. And I read that the, according to what I read on the internet, the 3950X is supposed to idle between 55 to 60 Celsius on a water cooler. I don't know if I'm reading that correctly, but an air cooler is idling at 46. I mean, that's actually better than a water cooler. That's pretty damn good. And the RAM, 131 megabytes. Actually, not megabytes, that is. 131,072 megabytes, which translates to 132 gigs of RAM, 128 gigs, and that's all the RAM right there. Going straight down, and I'm pretty sure that RAM, I don't know if I have the boxes still, but I thought the RAM was supposed to be 3200, which that's probably the proper clock speed right there. I've got a couple of fans running right here. I don't have the keyboard hooked up at the moment, but yeah, this looks to be in good running shape right here. I will probably downclock the CPU a little bit so it runs a little bit cooler. That's my preference. I'm just going to be using it for video editing. Now this may perhaps be the last video rendered on my my other PC over there. Now just for the hell of it, let's take a look at that PC, what the inside of that one looks like. So as you can see here, this is the current machine that I'm using. I got the lid off so you guys can actually see what it looks like on the inside. I got a really low profile video card right there. It's a Radeon RX 560, I believe. You got 32 gigs of RAM. You got that little small, low profile Actua air cooler. You got the I believe this is a Silverstone. Yeah, it is. A 300 watt ITX power supply. And right here, this whole thing pops up. Probably see in a second. This piece has to come off first before we do that. There might be a little bit of dust here, as you can see. So this whole thing comes up, and all the wire management actually looks it's not the greatest, but you know, it is what it is. This actually has not one, you probably can't see it, but there's like two SSDs stacked on top of each other. There is a third one hidden down here somewhere. It's probably a third one right here. So there's a total of 3 SSD drives inside this computer, which is pretty crazy, because most people have like 1 or 2 SSDs inside of a full-size case, but this little teeny small case has 3 SSD drives. And I believe 2 1 terabytes and 1 128. Now this thing is a great video editing machine, and this will probably be the final video done on this machine. And I uploaded a lot of videos going all the way up to June that were rendered on this machine, so you'll see a lot of videos that were made on this computer. Now this one had nice airflow. See all that airflow going out that way? So pretty much this fan blew air out, and it just dispersed out that way. Yeah, that's pretty much what that one looks like on the inside. But it's pretty much done at this point. The only thing I have to do is add storage and a few more things to it. You see, I added a little bit more of USBs right there, and there's still a 5 1/4 slot. I'm going to add something in there. Maybe I'll put a floppy disk drive in there. So yeah, if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and comment down below.